Where's my pen at, mama? Let's see. What's this? Good afternoon, good people. It's good to see everyone joining in. We're getting ready to have another good show with myself and Mr. Brother Chris Silvera. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. This is gonna be a continuation of the show we did 2 weeks ago. Got a lot of positive feedback from that show, so we want to continue to talk about some of those things. Let me see if Chris out here yet. Not yet. So how's everybody doing, man? Everybody doing all right? Everybody hear me okay? Soon as Mr. Silvera gets on, we're going to start up the show. Let's see what we got here. Not yet. How was everybody's week? Was it good? This is a new week. What's up, good brother? How you doing, man? Up there in Canada, our Canadian brothers and sisters up there. Sis Taylor, how you doing? Good. I'm glad it was a great week for you guys over on the West Coast. He hasn't come on here yet. Let me see what else. What's this? Do. Hey, Miss Spears, how you making out? Let me see. Nope. I need y'all to tell everybody in your areas, man. Make sure they vote. October the 4th will be here before you know it. Man, we got to get our people to vote. We got to get them to vote, man. This election is very, very important. Last time around, about 200,000 people vote out of 1.4 million people. That's not good. That is not good at all, man. We got to change that. We got to change those numbers. On our newsletter that we sent out at 623, we actually got a little, section talking about the election and making sure they get their ballot and making sure they vote. Regardless of who you vote for, man, you got to vote. I know there's some contention and a lot of dirt, a lot of mud been slung back and forth. You know what I mean? I hate that part of it. It's never going to change. I wish it would. But at the end of the day, man, who's this calling me, man? But at the end of it all, man, we still brothers and sisters. I mean, even not even at the end of it all. During this whole situation, we still brothers and sisters. We may have a difference of opinion, but we are still brothers and sisters. Supposed to be. It shouldn't matter one way or the other who you vote for. We're not Democrats or Republicans. That's what they do. We're Teamsters. We should always be focused on what we can do to make sure our members win against these employers. And politics is dirty. Man, it is dirty. I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it. I was talking to one of my shop stewards a couple of days ago, and we were talking about some things. He said, "Hooker, I know you hate politics, but your position is very, very political, and that's very uncomfortable for me. That part of the job is very, very uncomfortable because for 21 years I've been a rank and file Teamster. For the last 20 months I've been an officer, and the transition has been challenging. There's a lot of stuff I want to say because the rank and file in me wants to just come out, but I got to be careful. Yeah, I wish it was different, man. There's a whole lot of stuff I want to say about this election. Man, there's a lot of stuff I want to say. But I gotta be careful in what I'm saying. Let me see. Did I hit it? Hey, Chris is saying no answer from the guest. He said if it's gonna be able to work with that shit, then it's a little honest. Alright, it says no answer. Yeah, Ruben, it's the worst part, man. This is ugly, dude. It is ugly. Brother Silvera keeps saying, "See, can you send an invite because it's saying I don't have any. I'm not getting any. Okay, let's see what we got. I saw somebody. Here we go. It says no answer from live video guest. What up? What up, Jamie? What's going on, brother? Now all the days this thing want to be acting all crazy. Wow. 43 days. I just hope everybody is getting their respective people to vote. People to vote. That's my main thing. I've been having some conversations with people, and I hate to say this, but it's going to come down to national contracts versus white paper contracts. There's a difference of opinions in those two groups. If you are one of the big, if you're in freight, UPS worker, then especially for UPS worker, if you're a UPS worker, you're being used as a pawn because this 22-4 situation, really really bad. Then you got people in freight like YRC and stuff like that. But if you're in like a little small local, bunch of small contracts, you don't know Verma, you don't know O'Brien, you probably don't even know Hoffa. And so all you really know is, your principal officer and your people in your local. All right, let's try this again. Now it says that. So again, after talking, I had a really good conversation with one of those type of situations. It was a small local, and you know, we'll talk about it when Brother Chris get on, man, because I want to get his insight on this. And for all those who don't know, Chris is the longest tenured principal officer in the Teamsters. Myself, I may be the the shortest tenured, only got 20 months in, and Chris, he got a 30 plus in. So that's why I think these conversations, you get to see two different, you get to see one at two different perspectives, but it covers everything, old school, new school, you know what I mean? The elder and the younger, this is what.
KRS-One versus
Oh yeah, KRS-One versus someone like J. Cole. J. Cole and
yeah,
KRS-One. Yeah, 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 yeah,
no
yeah,
doubt,
yeah.
no doubt.
So Chris, it's good to see you again.
You too, my brother. Good morning
Yeah,
to you. Is it
yeah.
raining in Philly?
It was not right now, but it was real bad last night, and
last night?
I saw where this Hurricane Henry had actually turned it in a different way. It's going to be hitting you guys in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So our prayers go out to those, those brothers and sisters up there, man, because it's gonna get ugly up there for those people.
Yeah, it's gonna get rocky.
Yeah.
It's a steady rain here. I don't see too much wind, but the rain is here, and I just cut down a tree that I'm hoping that's the only tree I had to cut down before the storm came. Well, I
Uh-oh.
didn't cut it down myself, but I had some other lunatic do it. But hopefully that tree is the only one that seemed dangerous. And funny, I didn't cut it down because of the hurricane, but it just so
Hmm.
happened that the timing was right.
Right.
And so we're going to watch it and see what happens. And, uh, we have been blessed for 25 years. And if I have one bad day, I can't cry. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
I'm going to have to live with that.
So something happened historic within the AFL CIO this week.
Right,
You had for the first time in history, you had I think her name is Liz Schuler
right,
and Fred Redmond.
right,
Um, Fred Redmond, first ever African American Secretary Treasurer, and Sister Liz Schuler being the first ever woman to lead their organization.
right,
Um,
right,
so the AFL-CIO, they get it. They understand. They know that things are changing, labor is changing, the employers are changing, and they want to change with it. They want to become more inclusive and not exclusive. They want to show diversity. They want to show a lot of different things. In your long tenure, why do you think the Teamsters struggle with that type of diversity and inclusion?
multiple reasons. Uh, Certainly one of them is racism. This is America, so that's understandable. But secondly, we also have uh, blacks who don't want to step up and lead, uh, and are willing to go along and get along. And so that, and this, we have to be mindful of this idea of people who want change but are not willing to become a part of change and take on the responsibility and the sacrifices that make change. You did that, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
stepped up and you're local. Your local has been a long entrenched local, you know what I'm saying? And you decided one day enough was enough and you
Right.
made that step. And then you chose to walk a very independent path. Most people are not willing to do that because they're looking for the other trinkets that come with these positions, and we're not willing to make the sacrifices that are required if we're going to move the working class forward. So I am not, I don't know Shula and I don't know Redmond. I never met him. Uh, I'm kind of been a fan of the sister Sarah Nelson
Yeah, absolutely.
from the
Yeah.
flight attendants,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so I'm also cautious because sometimes institutional power will put the right picture in place, even though the program is still a program that is not about empowerment of the working
Hmm.
class. You know what I'm saying? So we have this very lovely picture, and we see that a lot of times, in locals where, they have a black guy there, but that black guy really doesn't bring anything to the table. He's not going to come and talk about the march on August 28th in Washington, D.C. He's not going to push the local to participate in the Moral Monday program that Reverend Barber is doing. Whatever the leadership says is okay with me as long as I get that check every Friday and I have that union vehicle to ride around in. Um, and the labor movement cannot afford that. We're at an inflection point, and we cannot afford to go along, get along,
Right.
that we have been experiencing for all too long. I ain't gonna talk about the last 20 years. It was
Yeah.
there before that and there before that. You know what I'm saying? So, people like to go like, Ron Carey, Hoffa, as if they said there were no Teamsters before that. That's how short our memories are in terms of empowerment of the working class.
Right. So I never forget when we got elected, 2019, and we took office in 2020. I went to the office, and our back office there was a picture of the General Executive Board from 1982, 40 years ago. So I'm looking at it, and nothing has really changed. Nothing has really changed when it comes to inclusion and the diversity. Nothing has really changed in over 40 years within the Teamster leadership. Still look the same. They may throw a minority here and there just to say, hey, we got one of you guys in there, but nothing has really changed, and that's why I applaud what the AFL-CIO did, because we need, as Teamsters, we should adopt that same mindset. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over and think things are going to change. If you want to get more people involved, our members to participate, then you have to make the organization more inclusive.
That's true.
I was talking
At
to
the
a
top,
brother
yeah, yeah.
right at the top. I was talking to a brother on Friday, small local, no national contracts, and him and I were talking, and he was saying that if you, like we talked about that 2 weeks ago, that the acceptance speech video, if you show that to, members who are especially not in a national contract, freight, UPS, things of that nature, because those people don't know who O'Brien is, they don't know who Verma is, they don't know who Hoffa is. So when you show them that video, they're gonna, migrate to the more inclusive group. And that's what him and I were talking about. He said, man, Hooker, man, our members don't know these guys. I don't even barely know them. But when you look at the tape and when you look at what's going on, then our members, especially the black and brown persuasion, we're going to migrate to the power slate because they're more inclusive. Because if you are in a white paper contract, you don't know nothing about 22-4. You don't know
Right,
nothing
right.
about a 15% decrease in your salary from YRC. You don't know those things. All you know is, listen, my contract never got forced on me. I get good raises. I get all this. I get all that. So I don't know these guys. So if I don't know them, I'm going to go with the group who shows that they want me to be included in their platform.
Right, right. Well,
So
that's one of the things that if you look at, and not to laud it, again, we have to be very respectful of quality of personnel at the same
yes,
time.
yes,
But it is without question that the Verma slate is the most inclusive slate. But I'm going to tell people this, that, and brothers and sisters, you got to do your own homework. You're going to watch simply what the leadership of the local says, because you don't know any better. And I actually met a brother out of local 294 as a UPS guy. And Robert Church brother, I mean, clearly clueless about the union movement. And he said, well, whatever they tell me to do, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to say this to women. I'm going to say this to all Teamsters, because at the end of the day, it affects all of us, right? This voter suppression thing. If you don't have a loud voice at the table, your union will not be involved. You know what I'm saying? I was down at the Moral Monday with Reverend Barber, and all I saw was Unite Here. I saw a couple of stray people from AFSCME, but in Washington, D.C., with numerous Teamster locals right there, we were uninvolved. And I'm going to say to these rank and file brothers and sisters, if they suppress the vote of the Black worker, it suppresses all workers' votes. And they're not coming for us. They're coming for all of us. So we need to be very careful about how we ignore things, how we line up politically, and coming back to the video that you talked about, one video says it requires all of us to make something happen. And one video reminds me of a very Trumpian point, which is, I can handle this, you know. And I'm going to say something else too, because I hear this chatter about strike. A strike is the nuclear weapon of organized labor. A strike is the last thing that you do. A strike actually indicates that the parties have failed to hear each other and satisfy the needs of the other, right? A strike is now the ultimate weaponry. But if you start negotiations premised on a strike, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if I tell the company 2 years in advance, yo, when we get to the table, we're going to have a strike, it means that the company is going to be very prepared for that strike. And I counsel workers to say that, you know, you should be armed, right? You should be prepared to use your ultimate weapon, but use it wisely. Because if you hit me hard enough and I'm still standing up, this fight is about to take on a different aura. So I want to see people talk about, how do we achieve the goals of those workers at UPS? How do we achieve the goals of the workers at YRC? How do we achieve the goals in the public sector, right? So if you think of city governments, state governments, where in some cases revenues are down and what have you like that, you know, workers at NYCHA in New York City, the New York City Public Housing Authority, right? They're gonna have issues. If you're at the University of California system, you're gonna have issues. If you're working, you know, in other public sector parts of the country where we have significant numbers, we're going to have issues because of the dollar issue around COVID. So, and some of them can't strike, you know, so some public sector workers can't strike, you know, so how do we empower those workers? You know, like you went down when they had that rally in Philadelphia for the city workers, right? You didn't go, well, I'm a UPS guy, what do I care what's that? No, you have to care.
Right.
If they lose power, you lose power. If you lose power, they lose power.
Absolutely.
You know? But we talked about, we wanted to lock off 95. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We wanted, you know, from South Carolina to Maine. You know, if O'Brien got a problem, if any of these guys got a problem in their locals, that they know that there is support coming to them. You know, Local 251 up in Rhode Island are on strike against a company called Johnson Brothers, and they've been on strike for quite some time. And you know, they need to let us know, what do they need, what can we do to help support them. You know, the local itself, yeah, you might have some money and what have you, but do you need more money? Do you want us to send a t-shirt? Do you want us to send a glove? Do you want us to send a bullet? I don't know what you want. You know what I'm saying? Not to suggest violence, but you know, you need to let us know, and we need to have that communication. So in spite of the fact that we are in these political camps, I'm not in no political camp. My loyalty is to the Teamsters. I don't have, you know, however which way I vote because I think A is going to do better than B. But whoever win, I'm loyal to the organization, and whoever's running the organization, you know, if they need help, call me. You know, I'm there. You know what I'm saying? But we need to make sure that we don't get stretched out like Democrats and Republicans. We are not that. You know, we I said
that right before you got on.
You did.
Listen, we're not Democrats or Republicans. We're Teamsters.
That's it.
The only person only entity on the other side of the aisle is the employer.
That's it.
We have to fight them. It's not Hooker versus Silvera. It's not O'Brien versus Burma. It's not all this. But when you look at what's going on, they make you feel that way. And I heard this thing, man, the other day, man, and it bothered me so bad. Mr. O'Brien, he was at a speech somewhere. He said, yeah, we're going to repay legislators. And all right, cool. That sounds good. We're going to repay any employee that comes against our workers. That's right, right? But then he said, we're going to repay our opponents. And I said, what? Well, I couldn't believe he said that, but then I just started thinking like, well, here we go again. Here we go again. We're not opponents. We want the same. Just because we don't agree, just because we don't agree on the politics, don't mean we're opponents. We want the
That's right.
same. We want the same thing. We
That's right.
want this. We want good contracts. We want to make sure that the people in power, our legislators, do the right thing for labor. We want to make sure that our communities are taken care of and our generations are taken care of. That's what we all should want. I don't care. I don't. You shouldn't care who's at the Marble Palace, they call it.
Right.
What you should care about is how are we as a Teamsters organization going to move forward? Like you said, how are the Teamsters going to win? Not the our slate, not the power slate, not Chris Silvera, not Richard Hooker,
Yeah.
but how are we as Teamsters going to win? Not just now, but for our future generation, because the generations are changing. They're
That's right.
changing.
That's right. That's right. And people need to understand this. One of the things that they had delved into, which I did not like, was years ago they did a thing about pigs at the trough. There are things that you can't come back from. I have issues with parties, and I've had them even before these parties. You know what I'm saying? Because I go back when I got elected. There was a guy named Billy McCarthy out of Local 25 that was the head of the Teamsters. And people that I know that work with Billy McCarthy at the international headquarters, black people, did not think he was the most friendly guy to black people. But I've seen them all come. So I've seen Billy, I've seen Ron Carey, I've seen Jim Hoffa, and we're going to see who comes into Mark. And I'll say this, that in spite of what even I have perceived as racism within the union at the international, right, at the Marble Palace, that executive board. So, if you remember, we got to a point where we had 2 vice presidents and a trustee, and we went down to a trustee. We lost all of that under Jim Hoffa's leadership. You understand the point I'm saying? I didn't hear any of these other characters, black or white, jumping up saying, whoa, 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 you can't push black folk back. You can't, what's going on here? So we have to, as rank and file leaders, we have to step up and start to talk about how do we protect the people once they're elected, right? So if you heard in the last conversation we had, I said, if you are Oz, a black person for Oz, then those blacks on Oz's slate should be able to get some money from you so that they could make whatever it is they got to throw up into the kitty to be a member of the Oz slate. And if you're a part of the Verma Herrera slate and you're a black, then you got to make sure that those blacks on that slate get some money, right, so that they come in as equals, right? Because historically, blacks on the slate have never been equals to the whites at the General Executive Board. And that's problematic in the very first place. But also, the blacks that have been on the General Executive Board have been silent on issues within the union, silent on issues about inclusion, silent on issues about empowering women and empowering more blacks and what have you. So while they say that we are the most loyal, if you go into a shop and the majority of the workers are black, you're most likely to organize them and what have you, that's not reflected at the upper levels.
Right.
But now, if you look at the Verma Herrera slate, hard to say nay. They got 5 women, they got all kind of blacks, Latinos, and what have you. And, people are going to reflect on that. People need to reflect on that. People need to look at that, you know what I'm saying, and ask questions about that. What does it mean for me? Is it a real sign that we have made some, or certainly that we are symbolically saying we have recognized that we have made mistakes in the past, and we're about to correct that, right?
Right.
So, you know, but at the end of the day, when all this is said and done and the dust blows over in March or whatever of next year and that new leadership takes over, if you ain't going to your membership meetings, if you're not going to a rally, if you're not going out and voting in these elections, stop crying. Don't
That's it
nobody
right
want to
there.
hear from you. Just stay silent.
That's it right there. I mean, and that's the really the biggest problem that I think we're going to have is we just don't get involved enough. We engage, but for whatever reason, man, our members, they don't come out, like you said, to the meetings. They don't come out. They don't participate in the voting. Now they complain a lot, but they don't come out. They don't come out and let their voices be heard.
Yeah.
And I don't understand this, especially when you pay money every week for that voice. I don't get that. If I'm paying for something every week, I want it to work. I'm gonna be involved in it. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
just gonna let somebody else, do what they want to do, knowing that I pay for it as well. So I got some questions here that was text to me, and I want you to answer these questions, Brother Silvera. It
Okay.
says, let me see. It says, how do we meet the needs in our local when you have a staff that lies and are in it for the wrong reasons and not the members?
Organize and vote them out.
Yeah,
It is people go the business agent, the business agent. They all serve at the pleasure of the membership. The membership don't serve them. We serve our membership.
that's right.
And our members
That's
need
right.
to remember that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes, Chris got the car and he's got the gasoline and all this kind of stuff like that. But that's in service to them. I am there with those things to serve their interests. So, people need to mobilize to vote out any leader. If you have leadership that's not doing what they're supposed to do, you are supposed to vote them out. I tell my members pretty much, I don't want to say at every general membership meeting, but at certainly enough. If we have 9 of them during the course of the year, I'm sure I say it in 4 of those meetings, that it's up to you to decide when I'm no longer doing the job to your uh, uh, approval. And when I no longer meet your approval, it is up to you to vote me out. Because it's almost like an athlete, right? You're a wide receiver, you're now 36 years old. You can't see you ain't what you used to be. You need somebody else to say, hey, listen, I am going to trade you, cut you, whatever it
Right.
is, you got to go. And the membership in this case becomes the management. And the
Yes.
membership is the ones that have to say, hey, listen, you're not doing the job that we hired you to do. You got to go. And I don't really like to hear a whole lot of crying about leadership when the membership has to go in, because one of the things we got to remember, and I'm going to speak to 808 very specifically. I can go into 808, you can come into 808, and I'm sure that there's a good group of them that will tell you Chris Silvera ain't squat.
Right. Right.
And maybe 2 days out of the week, I might actually agree with them, right? But you got to make me go. I hear you. It's all good. But, I still love that car and that gasoline you're giving me every goddamn week. So, you got to make me go. I'm not, if you think I'm just going to get up and walk out the door because you said I ain't no good, what can I tell you, right? So the members the members are ultimately responsible for this union.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me rephrase that. For their union, right? If the pipe bursts in your house and you don't fix it, that's on you, right? If you don't want to run the vacuum cleaner through your house, that's on you, right? So this union don't belong to Chris Silvera. It does not belong to Hooker. It doesn't belong to Verma or any of them. It belongs to 1.4 million Teamsters, or 1.3, 1.4, whatever the number is. They squabble about that too. It seems like somebody would collecting the money would figure it out. But if the rank and file, white paper contract, public sector, all of this, whatever good that happens to UPS spreads to everybody else quietly. Whatever good in freight happens, because freight laid the foundation for this
Right.
union. Let us be very clear. This union, I mean, we talk about UPS. The foundation of this union is horse and buggy technology made them into trucks. But that's the foundation of this union. All these public sector, railroad, no. This is the truck drivers union right here. Let us be very clear about this, the grounding of this union, right? You have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to stand with my brothers in the trucking industry. Every member, you know, we have a march coming up on the 28th in numerous cities. You don't need the head of your local to go to the march. If you're a rank and file member, you understand what the ballot means, what the power of an election means. We saw it in the last election with Ossoff and Warnock being able to pass the Butch-Lewis Act, which rescued all these pension plans. I don't think the working class has gotten that kind of largesse in 60 years, in which they got that many billions that they did not have to pay back, that rescued all these pension plans. That is the power of the ballot box. And those black voters in Georgia, right? The people that were arrested in these pension plans, and I want to speak to central states, were predominantly white. And I bet you 70% of them was Trump supporters. But their pensions are secured today because of black voters in Georgia. We have to be very conscious when we talk and what we're doing and who we're voting for, you know, because when I look at this, I see Trumpian tendencies among some of these people that I don't like.
I hear you. So Hoffa's retiring, and I wanted to talk about this specifically because Hoffa's retiring, and you know, when I was a shop steward, rank and file member shop steward at UPS, you used to always hear, especially what happened in 2013. Man, Hoffa's no good. Hoffa this, Hoffa that, and Hoffa, right? And you get this mindset of just Hoffa's this bad person, right? And I get that. But sitting on this side of the table, I found out that Hoffa had a whole lot of help. It wasn't just him.
That's right.
He had a whole lot of help. He enabled some people, and some people enabled him. It was a marriage, so to speak, a relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, and he burned a whole lot of people, but it was not just Hoffa. Like one of the things I get tired of hearing right now is this, especially when it comes to organizing Amazon. Oh, we should have organized. Hoffa didn't do what he was supposed to do 10 years ago with Amazon. And I'm looking at, hold on a minute, man. You've been running with the guy for the last decade or more. So you are as responsible for whatever Hoffa did. And I get it, man. People want to pass the buck. Man, no. No, you are just as responsible. Just like you said with the pipe bursting in your home analogy. If the pipe busts and I don't fix it, then that's my fault.
That's right.
So something like in 2018, everybody know what happened with the UPS contract, right? But there were a few things that happened before 2018 that really could have stopped 2018 from happening. 2016 was one of them. When we was at the convention and everybody was talking about, changing the Constitution, so a general president couldn't just force the contract on people and other things that was going on there. Everybody booed and cussed us out and called us all kind of names. A lot of these people running now. So to me, in my eyes, 2018 shouldn't have happened, but it was because of these people and how they acted and how they voted in 2016. They are just as responsible for what happened in 2018. Mm-hmm. Another one, it happened in the fall of 2017, September. I'll never forget this. So I think Mr. O'Brien was on the a Boston radio station, and also I think he put in the paper in the Boston Globe. Now he said that in that article, in that interview in 2017 September, that he knew for years that Hoffa was an absentee landlord. He knew for years that Ted Thompson was running the IBT. He knew that, I mean, he was killing Hoffa. And he said he'd been knowing this for years. So in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if you knew this for years, why are you still running with the guy? Why
That's
you
right.
kept supporting him? Because you enabled Hoffa and all his wrongness to do what he did to the membership. And now, I get it, politics, man. I get it. But 2018 does not happen if we do what we were supposed to do in 2016.
Right. So you know that something is wrong,
Right.
and you still go along,
And you still
but
go along with it.
you just as guilty, right? If
Yes.
you know I'm going to rob a bank, and you sit in the car and wait for me to run out the bank and jump back in the car and you take off, you just as guilty of robbing the bank as I am, right? And this is my point about this insider, outsider. He's a Hoffa guy. He ain't a Hoffa guy. I'm going to tell you something. One of the things that I think I respected about Verma is the fact that he never attempted to malign Hoffa. And he says, yo, that's the guy that put me on. Did I have disagreements? Yeah, I had disagreements, but I ain't going to call him no scumbag. I'm not going to call you a scumbag and take your money. When I think you're a scumbag, I'm going to quit, give you the old hit the Italian thing there, whatever they do,
Right.
and I'm out the door, and you could call me whatever you choose to call me. I have always been, and that's why I'm not on any boards. You ain't going to see me on a joint council board. You ain't going to see me on no international board, because I ain't going to stand there and know that you're wrong and then go along. And I will agree, and I don't want to call him an absentee landlord. I don't know that I would go that far, but I wasn't there. Right? I'm in New York,
Right.
I'm going to say that a Brian would know better than I do. But if you allowed it to happen, then you're just as guilty. And I watched you at the convention when Tim Sylvester, who I happen to like, and I watched how you assaulted his right to speak at the convention. And I saw it before when they assaulted Sister Sandy Pope and jumped up in her face and carried on. And then when they got and I'm going to tell you, this shows you how they train like orangutans. When they got the sign, all of them got up and walked out of the convention. They never heard a speech by a gentleman named Tom Leadham. They never heard a speech by Sandy Pope. They never heard a speech by anybody other than Jim Hoffa. My members didn't send me there to be no stooge to some other guy. I'm there as a representative to my local. So when they coming up now and saying they got all these bright ideas, I didn't hear them last year. I didn't hear them the year before. But I saw you signing and cashing that check. Because if Jim Hoffa was an absentee landlord, you should have been raised in hell, because he can't throw you off the board. First of all, you white. You come from a dominant local 25. You ain't like Henry Perry and Ron McLean, who they could toss off the board at will. And, you know, they put oh my God, don't even let me get into this thing. You know, they have no excuse. So don't come now and tell me what Jimmy did wrong, because I'm going to tell you what Jimmy did right. Jimmy was advised by probably almost everybody. Take a haircut and cut a deal to save these pension plans. And Jimmy stuck it to the nth degree and said, no, we're going to pass this Butch Lewis Act. We ain't standing down. And again, the cards were dealt in a good favor politically, and we were able to do that. So anything that Jimmy did that they didn't like, Jimmy a lawyer, right? Jimmy got elected because his name was Hoffa. right? So them cats in Detroit, remember, and this is historical reality. This is one of the reasons why I was never a big Hoffa guy. I remember when they ruled Hoffa ineligible to run. And this same government, 2 years later, then says he was eligible. Why? Because somebody gave him a sham job at the Joint Council? Come on, government. But then we see what's happening in Afghanistan. So if we think the government is going to straighten this union out, we have lost our cotton picking mind, right?
Yeah.
Maybe cotton picking, maybe somebody attacked me about that. Please, sorry, I didn't mean.
Yeah, hey, listen, I say that all the time when I get frustrated. So you in good company.
Yeah, so this is only people that can straighten out this union are its members. And when 1 million members start to get involved, start to vote in local 808, start to vote in local so-and-so, start to vote in local so-and-so, stop crying, organize, empower yourself. Just because you're black, you got power in this union. This union was designed for the rank and file. This is one of the most democratic unions in the country. And I'm not talking about this international election. I'm talking about at the local level. There's not a lot of locals, a lot of unions where at the local level you have this much determination about who's going to run the ship. You know what I'm saying? So rank and file members, you need to get involved. Stop crying, stop complaining. It is you why you have misleadership. It is you. You've been looking to blame somebody else. Now hold that mirror up and say the union sucks. When you're saying that, just hold the mirror up and say the union sucks so you can see who sucks, right? Because there are people out here trying their level best to make it better.
Absolutely.
And whatever criticisms we have, and I'm gonna step back and say I ain't been no fan of Jimmy, but I'm gonna say this from my own perspective. I have learned that when you're not in the ball game and you're watching it on TV, you get to see a lot of stupid stuff. But the guys on the field who have to run down the sidelines, catch that ball and tip it toe and make a first down, that's the guy that's on the line. So if you want to stay on the sidelines and clap, but otherwise shut up. Get involved. Come to the meetings. Put your, I have people that's coming to the ratification meeting with a proposal. I'm like, yo, you're at the wrong meeting. That happened 3 months ago. You know what I'm saying? Now we could talk about it in the next contract, but not in this contract. And so that our members are out to lunch. How many of our members have picked up the bylaws of their local union and read that? How many of our members have picked up the Constitution, the International Brotherhood, and read that? How many of our members have read the contract that governs their working conditions? I like one of the things that you put out when you win these grievances and you show people how much money was stolen from them.
Right.
It was stolen.
Stolen. Right.
You understand the point I'm saying? So when you say I got back $93,000 from my members, that means that I went out, investigated the theft, caught the criminal, and recovered your lost money, right?
Yep.
How much money is lost every year? How much money is lost every year that we never recover? You understand the point I'm saying? And so people need to understand, you need to know your contract, know how to file a grievance. Well, I always take my hat off to my brother, Chris Williamson, because Chris had the Breakfast Club, and he would always teach people about the contract and learn about the contract and what have you. And so this is the things so you can't sit at home and think the local is going to change. Whether you're in the public sector, you're in the private sector, you're in freight, wherever you are, you need to have that contract and take a half hour every day and read a couple chapters of that contract every day.
So I got another question here about a chief of staff. I guess they want to know, what does that mean for a local?
Okay.
I don't know.
So if you have a big enough local, I'll use local 237 in New York as a prime example, 24,000 members. You, as the principal officer, you ain't even the union guy no more. You the mayor. You know what I'm saying? There's cities that don't have 24,000 people. And so you have a staff. right? Doing different things. And so the chief of staff is someone who makes sure that everybody keeps coordinated, that your whatever your demands are as the principal officer, that those demands are being executed by the business agents and other staff, whether it be Titan or different things going on like that. The chief of staff has no power over the membership. The membership has power over the principal officer, thereby they have power over the chief of staff. So when the principal officer gets voted out, then the chief of staff tend to kind of like have to go with him. You know, in the instance of Todd Thompson, I suspect whoever wins this election, Todd Thompson will not be around anymore. You know, he was never a nice person to me. So I have nothing very nice to say about that gentleman right there. And if I were in charge, he would not be my chief of staff, right? Your chief of staff should come from within the organization. Now, you know, you got outside expertise, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you don't have some people from the outside. You know, there's a lot of things that the union does, but the guy that's your chief of staff as the head of a local union should be somebody from the union, from inside the union, but they have no power except to do the work that was given to them by the principal officer.
Gotcha. So there's been an update schedule on the debate. So now we know all 3 dates. September the 1st at 6:30 DC. The candidates of General President, Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Verma. Then you have the next debate over at the Women's Conference in Vegas between, again, Mr. Verma and Mr. O'Brien. And then September 29th, for the first time in history, you're going to have the 2 General Secretary Treasurer candidates debate, I believe, in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we talked about it a little bit 2 weeks ago, but what can we expect from these debates? What should members look for, especially if I'm a member? You know, I don't really know, you know, what's going on. I go on Facebook, I hear a lot of mudslinging from both sides. I see people attacking people. You know, I see this guy, he's been a terrible leader. On this guy on this side, I don't even know. You know, I don't know what to expect. So what should I look for in these debates?
What I would look for if I was a rank and file member is a program, right? So it's easy to say who sucks and who don't suck because we don't know each other. So, you know, if I'm in Arizona, I have no clue who Verma is. I don't know who O'Brien is. I'm toddling along with either the local union or I'm toddling along because I'm a TDU supporter. But for those people who are not caught up, what I call the independent voter, the intelligent voter, the intelligent voter should look for someone and look at what is the program, what do you envision for the next 5 years? What has you set as your goals over the next 5 years of your term? Because that's really what's going to be important. Whether Verma ain't no good, you know, people talk about well, he's Jimmy's guy, so what? You know, like I said, they all served on the same executive board, and I ain't heard none of them crying. So I'm not confused about that. So, you know, Zuckerman was director of Car Hall under Jimmy Hoffa. I ain't him crying. He started crying when Jimmy wouldn't make him the VP, but you know what I mean? You know, that's internal stuff. I mean, you know, the check is still the same unless you wanted 2 checks. You know, one as VP and one as director and all this kind of cockamamie stuff. So people need to push that aside and think about my union. We need to think my union. What do I want for my union? And who of these candidates articulated that vision the best? And that's what people need to be looking for. Programs. The hell with who don't like who and, you know, who's corrupt and who ain't corrupt. They all sat on the same board and I ain't heard none of them swinging at each other until it was time to get a third check. And then all of a sudden the competition started. So I'm not confused with that. People need to look at ideas. Who
Yeah,
sets forth the better ideas?
right. I agree with that. I know one of the things
And
I'm going to be.
realistic, and also realistic ideas too, because I could promise you anything. People need to look at how real is the program? How real are those proposals?
I agree. I know one of the things I'm going to be looking forward to see is, like you said, who has the best vision for the entirety of the organization, not just UPS, not just freight, not just this, no, not that, but everybody. And and I need to be able to research that with what they've been doing over the past few years. Because, like you said, I can promise you everything,
Mm,
but what have you been doing on a local level, joint council level, that makes me believe that you're going to do that on a national level? Because if you ain't been doing it at your house,
that's right.
what makes me think you're going to do it at the member's house?
That's right. That's
You know,
exactly
I
right.
I, I got to look at that. I mean, don't come to me talking about, man, you going like the one that every time I see this shirt, man, I get disgusted. There's this shirt that I saw. It says, "This time our vote counts." Every time I see that shirt, I'm like, man, why didn't it count in 2013?
Right, 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 right.
Why didn't it count then? But we forget about that. Man, I hate that shirt so much, man. I wish they would burn it. And I get it. It's political because of what happened in 2018. I get all that. But the same thing happened in 2013. The same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And the rules are the rules. I always tell people, I don't care. I really don't care what the rules are. Just tell me what they are and stick to those rules.
Yeah, yeah,
So if the rules required that a certain percentage of the population had to vote uh, against a contract, or we could implement, because I can argue both sides of that question, right? I can,
right.
250,000 members, 240,000 members. I can argue why you should have a rule like that, and I can argue against it, right? So these things are the rules that people come up with. They're not always perfect rules. It's what people think is going to work at a particular point in time. But if the rule says it has to be rejected and more than 50% of the population had to make that decision, or we have the right to implement, then, and again, coming back to the responsibility of the membership, no, if you're against this contract, then you need to vote. Let me tell you something. We just voted a contract in on the railroad here at Metro North. 750 members, and that contract was determined by 120 voters. We set up a ballot box. I don't do mail ballot because wherever they work on the railroad, all train lines come to Grand Central. We were open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So you had no excuse not to get there. You could get there on the way to work or get there after work. 120 members determined the outcome for 750 people. Right now, nobody was really against the contract. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we knew that from going around and talking about it, but it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, I know, man.
We should have had 500 members that came to Grand Central. They said, well, why we got to come to Grand Central? I said, because you see people. You see your members. You haven't seen them in 3 years. You build camaraderie when you see each other. You understand the point I'm saying? And we have to build that camaraderie. And one of the reasons I love to go on a picket line when people doing the picket line things, because that's where you make real comrades in
Yeah.
arms.
Yep.
When you in that foxhole, and I came and shared that foxhole with you for an hour or two, you appreciate me better
That's
than
right.
if I just sent you a letter and says, hey, I support you. You know what I'm saying? You want to see me in that foxhole for a little bit of time. And
Right.
that we want to have that exchange, because guys get hired and the seniority come, you move here, you went there, I went there, and we don't really see each other anymore. But that opportunity, and I just watched the 120 guys come that haven't seen each other for a long time, and just saw they spent hours just hanging out. After the vote, the ballot box closed, they all left and went to bars and stuff and hung out. Right? That's that camaraderie that you have you know, and those things are important. And so I like that in-person voting. I like when, now it's not always possible, don't get me wrong, but I like it when you are able to do it and have that in-person voting.
Man, that's something, man. 750, and everybody comes to a central location,
Yeah.
and only 100 and some people voted.
But let me
Man,
tell you something. It tells the company something too. See,
yes,
there's the company is like, these suckers can't do nothing right, you know. And so you also have to send messages back to the company, right? Are you willing to sacrifice,
yeah,
right? So because remember now, most of these guys they're making good money, but they also living that good life. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, they got the Cadillac in the garage, they got the Escalade, the wife is driving nice, the kids are in college, you know, took out a second mortgage, da 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 da. So when you say strike, how many of these workers can go on strike and survive 3 weeks without a check? Let me tell you something, man. I hate to tell you, they can't even give up. Oh, I hate. So I have one of my members. I won't tell you what he is because it would identify him. But this guy makes about plus 200,000 a year, right? On the significant side of 200,000 a year, and he was crying about 2 hours of overtime. 2 hours. You understand the point I'm saying?
don't.
What? How do you take that person out on strike for 3 weeks when they're going to get nothing? Right? They live in that. They live in that life. They live in that 200,000. So they're not taking that overtime and banking it.
Right,
They're
say right.
taking that overtime and buying a bigger house. They're
Yeah,
taking that overtime and buying a nicer car. You know what I'm saying? Living that, you know, going to fancy hotels and stuff like that, you know. So how do you take that person out and say, we're going to be 20 years ago, let me even go further than that. 30, 40 years ago, workers weren't like that. Workers were not as economically stressed out as workers are today. You know, my father didn't buy a refrigerator on credit. You understand what I'm saying? My father
mm-hmm.
saved up money and then went out and bought a refrigerator when he had enough. You know, the same thing with a car. The only thing I think my father had on credit was his house. And when he paid it off, he never took out no second mortgage or did none of them things. And bump, 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 I'm trying to pay this sucker off. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
Today, we have second and third mortgages on our houses trying to keep up with Jeff Bezos.
But you're right about the strike thing. You know, here what we started doing, we came up with a financial plan for our members here, just in case to be prepared if we do have to go out on strike. You know, we
Mm,
started this a few months ago. We didn't want to wait until the last minute. I mean, and it also shows the company that you're not afraid to walk the street if you have to. But
mm, mm.
you also got to have a plan. You just can't. It's easy to go out, but you got to have a plan to get back in.
That's right.
You,
That's
you
right.
know, we can take you out, we can go on strike, but what is the plan on getting you back in? You know, and
That's right.
will you be able to stand out as long as we need to get you back in?
To get you back in. That's right.
Right,
That's right.
right. So if we started, you know, we send out a something on our 623 app every Friday about, hey, did you put some money aside? We got flyers in the union boards. Hey, this is what you can do to save, you know, save some money just in case we have to go on
Yeah.
strike.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, but I saw something earlier today that you got to think about in the back of your mind, especially if you are a leader, is our young people, they don't understand what that means to go out on strike. You know, if especially if you're a UPS worker, you know, if you
Mm,
make, like you said, you make all this money and you living in these houses, these cars and stuff, and you got to go out. Are you going to be able to sustain that? You know, with bills and you got a family or whatever the case may be. Are you going to cross that line? Because if you cross the picket line, then you just have given into what the company wants.
yeah.
Now it's chaos. Now we don't win. It's just, and I'm hoping that whoever wins, that we have a strategy. You know, because we got a lot of young members. A lot of young members ain't gonna want to be out on strike. They want to hear that. They want their money. They want it now. They're not gonna want to hear that. So, we talk to our members about that.
Right.
And so I'm just hoping that whoever wins has a plan, just in case, number one, we do have to go out, but an even bigger plan if we have, how to get back in.
So that, and I think that is, I think if you go into negotiations understanding what's realistic, right? What's my troop strength? Do I have enough bullets to last me for 1 week or 6 weeks, right? What are the compounding implications of that? A strike is very romantic. It's just like war. War is very romantic. We went into battle and we were rah, rah, rah. Then 20 years later, we can't even get out of the airport in peace. You know what I'm saying? And this is what happens too often times when you walk. And so while you have to be prepared for this outcome in which the employer misunderstood what the demands of the workers were and how much it meant to those workers. And I'll give you a quick story. We had a negotiations one time, and it kind of stalled, and we had the members just come down to the building where the negotiations were. And they came for 5 minutes. I told them, I said, I want you to come, and in 5 minutes, I want you to leave. I don't want no security pushing you out. I don't want no cops pushing you out. I want them to realize this thing. And the members came down there for 5 minutes, man. They chanted, what do we want? Contract. When do we want it now? All that kind of thing. So the company comes back in and says, hey, you see what's going on outside? I'm like, no, I'm inside the building. I didn't hear nothing. What's going on? He said, well, the members are down there raising living hell. And I says, well, I told you at this meeting, the meeting's passed, that the members were very upset. And, we need to do something if we're going to, walk away from this thing without having a strike. We got what we wanted because members came. And in 5 minutes, so the company didn't get a chance to come in with security and get back to work. You know what I'm saying? You managed your own destiny. So you have to have a program in place to let the company understand what this strike going to look like even before the strike happens. This is how life is going to look, right? And so when people start to go, so well, just not working overtime, right? Just for 1 week. Nobody works any overtime. Hey, my kid got a ball game. I got to do this. I can't work tonight. You have to have a plan in place. And I'm going to go back because, one of the things that the Teamsters are going to have to focus on is the railroad. The railroad workers are getting beat up by the employers, by these massive CSX and Norfolk Southern. They've been merging, and they're just getting massive, and they've been destroying the workers. We went from having, and I'm talking about in the conductors. Trains used to have a caboose, right? With 2 or 3 guys in there. Caboose is gone. The train is now 2 guys, right? The railroad, I think the track department is down to about 35,000 track workers nationwide. Okay, but with the implementation of using subcontractors and mechanization, and at the same time the workers have to, big co-pays into their medical and what have you like that, so that the union is going to have to take the time to focus on railroad workers. But the railroad workers got to vote.
Yeah.
Because if you ain't voting, the potholes on your block don't get fixed. That's
right.
Just the reality of life.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to vote and show your presence, you get treated like that. And that's just how life is. And it's not even this. I didn't want to call it discrimination. It's just how life is. I take care of the people that's players. You ain't a player, nothing comes your way.
And I think that's why we have a lot of these situations that has happened in the Teamsters, organization. We don't vote, so that's why you got, a lot of this leadership that kind of does what they want to do, get away with it because the members don't hold them accountable. I honestly believe if the membership was more engaged as we voted, you wouldn't have a lot of these things that happen when it comes to the leadership in the Teamsters. Far as like the Roma Loises and all those kind of people, you wouldn't have those kind of people if the people would hold them accountable. I'm gonna tell you something. If you got a 1.1 and 1.4 million people, teams that voted, stuff like the old, people like the O'Briens and the or Loises, those kind of situations would not happen because Hoffa doesn't. I'll say this: Hoffa wouldn't be able to just suspend these guys for doing those kind of things because he would know that, man, you know what? I got 1.1, 1.4 million teams who vote, and
That's right.
they may come after me if I don't do the right thing by getting rid of this corruption in my organization.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I mean? And that's what I believe. I believe if we held our leadership accountable, some of these things would not happen. They wouldn't happen. They wouldn't happen.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed over the years, I remember 5 years ago, I went to a meeting. They were trying to tell us, hey, you got to vote for Hoffa and what have you like that. And I says, well, tell me, what does Hoffa stand for? Then I go back and tell my members, hey, listen, when you vote for Jimmy, this is going to come your way. Don't worry about that. Just tell them to vote for Hoffa. And we have this thing where we treat our members like sheep and we the shepherds. We don't treat our members like thinking human beings,
Yeah,
So,
we don't.
hey, vote for Brian, vote for Verma, vote for Chris, vote for John, as if to say they can't think for themselves. And then when you sit down and talk to them and says, why should I do this, right? So a member said to me and says, listen, this is this guy's website. That's that guy's website right there. Go and check them out, right? You must make an informed. When I come and say something to you, go and check them out. I put up websites. I tell people I put up websites. Go check this out. Go check that out. Find out for yourself because you might disagree with me. I had a member years ago when we were back in Ron Carey, and so we say, hey man, I'm looking. I want you to vote for Ron Carey, and the member said, well, I'm voting for Hoffa, and I'm like, but we going with Carey. Why you? He says, I got your back, Chris, but Hoffa is my guy. I said, you got my back? He goes, yes. I said, I'll go good who you vote for. You vote for whoever you
Right,
want to
right,
vote for,
right.
right? Because no matter how this
Ah,
vote comes, I'm worried about Chris first. And so our members are able to distinguish between what you think they should like and what they themselves feel, right? So I want you to go and do your research on O'Brien and Zuckerman. I want you to go and do your research on Verma and Herrera. And then we could have a dialogue of people who are informed about things, right? And
yeah,
then we could,
yeah,
we could have a debate. Whether I change your mind or don't change your mind is another thing. But like I said, at the end of the day, we're all Teamsters. So it's really about ideas. What are your ideas for this union? What are your ideas for this union? Because we got to remember one thing. We are a bottoms up union. So sometimes the international is there to do for this union what locals cannot do for themselves. That's it. That's it. So don't think that voting this guy in is going to get a better contract in 808. Getting rid of Chris
Chris,
Silvera might get you a better
I'm gonna
contract.
I'm gonna tell you something, man, because I hear this I hear this a lot, and it bothers me. Hooker, if you don't vote this way, then you're not gonna get what you need. Um, they're not gonna come to your help. They're not gonna come to your aid if you don't go this way. And I'm always telling people, well, for the last 20 months, um, like we've been doing this 623. We have been doing this. So if they don't come to our aid, then we can take legal action if need to. They get the per capita every month.
That's right.
We send about $50,000 to $60,000 to the international. I send about 3,500 to the PA conference. Send about 2,500 to the joint council. When they get those checks, they're obligated to the members at 623.
That's right.
They don't have to like the fact that I'm not supporting them or whatever the case may be, but they got an obligation to that money that we sent. Now if they
That's
don't
right.
now if they don't want to do that, then we'll take legal action if
Recourse.
need be, because we're not going to be bullied here. We're just not going to let it happen, especially when we sending all this money out every month. And that's why and that's why I tell people, Hooker, man, this is you got to go this way. If you don't go that way, you're not going to get. What you mean we're not going to get? Let me show you this check that me and Bagby just signed. Yeah, we gonna get what we need.
We're gonna get what we want. That's right.
Yeah, one way or the other, we gonna get it. Rather whoever we vote for, we gonna get it.
Yes, I've watched, I'll say this, and I can't say that this happens all the time and in every place, but here in New York, you have a local 814, and they had a big battle against Sotheby's. And as much as those guys were TDU guys and what have you, they had the full support of the IBT under Jimmy Hoffa. That's why I say to people, sometimes people just say things, but they got the full support of the IBT under Hoffa. And this sister Bernadette, she was there every day, and they ended up getting a good contract and so forth and so on like that. So I've seen this union, in spite of the rhetoric sometimes,
right.
Do what was correct. And so, I don't want people to just arbitrarily malign. Did I think Hoffa could be better? Yes, I thought he could be a lot better. But I also thought that Obama could be a lot better. And I also thought that Trump could be a lot better. And I also thought that Bush could be a lot better. Because at the end of the day, we are Americans, we are Teamsters, and all these people, their obligation is not to themselves, but it's to the citizenry. You understand the point I'm saying? So I don't have no love affair with either camp. If my guy gets in tomorrow, I'm going to be up his behind, pushing them to do the things that I believe is in the interest of the membership. That's who I am.
Right.
So yes,
I'm the same way. Again, I'm going to say, I don't care who. I mean, listen. Of course, like you just said, and I said it last week. 2 weeks ago. I would rather have 1 million Teamsters vote and my candidate lose than to have my candidate win and then you only got 200,000 people vote.
Yeah, absolutely. This is about, if we don't build, and I'm going to say this to the membership, if you want to move this union forward, it means that you have engaged, and it means that the employer is aware that you have engaged, because the employer is not afraid of Chris. The employer is afraid of the membership.
Yes.
Right? Because when we withdraw our labor, we exercise great power. So if you are not willing to participate, then the employer is not afraid of me or anybody else. And Zuckerman and Brian can woof all they want. And Verma and them can woof all they want. If this membership does not engage, if we can't lift the vote up from 200 and something to 500 and something to 600 and something to 700 and something, if we can't do that, we ain't impressing no employer here. Ain't scared of nothing, right? Because they could starve you out, because they're going to get money from banks. The banks are going to support YRC. The bank ain't going to support the IBT. So when your strike benefits run out, they can't go to Chase Manhattan Bank or none of the banks that they're using right now, right? And says, hey, listen, I need another 200 million to keep my guys out on strike. Because the bank's interest is the demise of the working class. This whole voter suppression is the demise of the working class. Donald Trump told them $15 an hour as a minimum wage was too much, and people still support this guy. So if we want things to happen, it happens because we engage, not because of Trump, not because of Biden, not because of how far whomever comes into the future. It's going to come because a million Teamsters stood up and said enough is enough.
Right.
And we want a different outcome.
I agree. I agree with that, Chris. And I'm hoping that we can get that plateau of a million Teamsters to vote. I know it's going to be tough. I know it's going to be hard because a lot of our members feel disenfranchised from the organization because, like I hear a lot of people say, man, you know, the leadership only comes around when it's campaign time. You know, if you didn't care nothing about me through the you know, all throughout the year, now you need something from me. Now you want to come out and tell me what you're going to do for me. Well, you didn't do nothing for me last time. So why would I believe you this time?
Right. So sometimes I think the membership is unfair, right? So the same guy who doesn't come to a meeting wants to know why I don't come and see him or her. I don't see you at no meeting, so you ain't coming to see me. Why am I coming to see you? You know what I'm saying? It's like a quid pro quo. This is what I'm saying, that, you know, the leadership responds to the demands, right? So if you're not coming to meetings, you know, we tried the Zoom thing. We got a different group of people on the Zoom, but we didn't get any more people. We didn't get 100, 200 people on Zoom at the general membership meeting. We got the same numbers as before. So, you know, and they say, well, you know, disengaged. Let me tell you something. How do you think African Americans felt being disenfranchised from the right to vote? But yet still they stood up and they fought for the right to vote.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't allow somebody to make you feel disengaged and you paying every month. You understand what I'm saying? I'm paying my taxes. I'm not going to be disengaged. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to make a demand or you accept your demise, right? And the demise is not just of you, the individual. The demise is also the organization you send dues to every month. Members have got to participate. They got to get in. They got to start to press forward. So this idea that, and there's some truth to it. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? But I know the work that leaders do in local unions. I know the demand on time, right? And, you know, so a lot of time I remember one guy chastised me and I brought a photo album. And I said, were you at this thing? He goes, no. That thing, no. This thing, no. That thing, no. This thing, no. I said, that's why you didn't see me, because I was at all these things. You wasn't there, right? So if our members were engaged, I'm trying to get a bus to go to Washington, D.C. for the 28th. I'm pulling teeth.
Yeah. Black
people listening to the fact that there's voter suppression are telling me about COVID-19. Not that COVID-19. But you know those people that went across that Edmund Pettus Bridge?
Yeah.
They had a COVID-19 too. Yeah. It was called a billy club upside your head.
Yeah.
There are people that got lynched. There are people that got beat up, burnt out, you know, hospitalized and everything like that. So I put your mask on, put on 2 masks, put on 5 masks. I don't care, put on a gas mask. But you cannot allow voter suppression to go unchecked. You're sending a message to the power structure. You don't think let me tell you something. Weren't you surprised to find out that Coca-Cola was in the meeting in Georgia around the issue of voter suppression? Did I elect Coca-Cola to something?
Nope.
You understand the point I'm saying? But Coca-Cola was in the debate. Delta Airlines was in the discussion. I ain't never flying Delta anymore. I'm going to punish Delta all be damned. You know what I'm saying? Coca-Cola, they could forget about it, right? So our members have to look and recognize what their parents and grandparents went through, and then you got to ask yourself, are you going to give up this land? The vote, that is, are you going to give up this land that your grandparents fought for and beat off of Jim Crow and everything to pass on to you, and you're just going to let it go like that? No. So this idea of being disenfranchised, hell no. You got to get involved, and there is no excuse. Somebody listen.
Can't hear you, Chris. There you go. There you go. Yep.
$60, $70 a month in union dues, right? So think about going to the nightclub, giving the guy at the gate $70 to get in the club, and then he tells you can't go in. Are you kidding? Right? So if you're paying for access. So if you're not accessing, this is like going down to the club, giving the guy $70. I didn't really want to go in anyway. I just wanted to leave $70 with you. No. Membership requires involvement. You have a responsibility to the totality. Just electing me is not sufficient.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Chris. I agree. I just hope, and we say it throughout this program, and we said it on the other programs, that I hope people vote. Regardless of who you vote for, just vote. I mean, like I said, we sent out a newsletter. People should have been getting it already for 623. And right on the front page, it talks about October the 4th. The ballots will be out. Right on the front. Listen, when you get that ballot, vote. When you get that ballot, don't put it on top of the refrigerator. Don't put it on the coffee table or the kitchen table. Man, vote. Please vote. And watch those debates. They're going to be live streamed. If you're having trouble choosing, man, watch them. Watch them. I know no matter, some people have already made up their minds, so this debate is not going to change anything, but there's a lot of people who just like, man, they're looking for answers. They can't find the answers. I think these debates, you'll be able to find those answers that you're looking for, because you won't be able to hide behind social media. You're not going to be behind what somebody else said or what somebody else talked about you, whatever the case may be. It's going to be the candidates, getting in front of the camera and in front of the membership and having a debate. Yeah. And I think, what we should do is make sure that we have our pencil and paper, take notes.
Taking notes. Yeah.
So when they come out to your barns to campaign, you can say, hey, man, on September the 1st, man, or September the 12th, or September the 29th, you said that this. How do you plan on doing that?
That's right.
Now, if that doesn't work, what's your backup plan?
That's right.
Because this is a very, very important election, man. You're talking about the membership is getting younger, the culture is changing.
Yeah.
You can no longer, be this good old boy, come along, give them along. Those days are over, and you can see them still trying to hold on to it. They still trying to hold on to it, but we can't do that, man. Those days are over.
So corporate America is eating us for lunch, and if we're going to defeat corporate America, that means that this union has to engage every member, whether they be women, Latinos, short, tall, Asian, LGBTQ, whatever they are. We need all hands on deck if we're going to defeat corporate interests in this country. And I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. One is the March for votingrights.org. March on for votingrights.org. And they're going to be marches, in-person marches in Phoenix, Houston, Miami, Atlanta, DC, Ocala, Sacramento, Salt Lake City, Hartford, Bristol, Tennessee, Wilkes-Barre, San Antonio, Pensacola, Manchester, New Hampshire, Boulder, Colorado, Tampa Bay, Las Vegas, St. Paul, Minnesota, Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Raleigh, Fayetteville.
So they're gonna have one in Fayetteville, North Carolina?
Yeah, they're gonna be one in Fayetteville and one in Raleigh, North Carolina on the 28th.
Because I'm actually gonna be down in Fayetteville um, on the 20th. My birthday is the day before, so I'm actually going to be there. Oh, so that's good.
Okay.
That's real good.
So, we just telling people, man, to get out there, get your locals out there. If your local won't go, at the end of the day, some of them are saddling up with being white. And I told my members, we are at that point where we have to consider whether being white is more important than having a pension, whether being white is more important than making $40 an hour, because we are now in a battle between the Union and the Confederates. Confederates represented by the Republican Party. They might have a few in the Democratic Party too, but by and large, they're in the Republican Party, and the Union being the Democratic Party. And if the Confederates win, because this is important for people to understand, because the Confederates own Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, so forth and so on like that. They know the states. There's nobody down there with $40 an hour. There's nobody down there with no pension. There's nobody, unless they hooked up to one of our joint things here, very few. But the masses of the workers down there don't have a pension. The masses of the workers down there making less than $20 an hour, right? So the Confederate ain't doing nothing for the white worker in Alabama or Mississippi or Georgia or Arkansas or Oklahoma. So you have to ask yourself, what's important to you? Do you want to be with the Confederates, or do you want to be with a pension, right? And the Union. And the people who hate civil rights are the same people that fight against the unions. The same people who hate the unions fight against women's rights. The same people who hate the union fight against LGBTQ rights. They weren't about whether somebody having an abortion, right? I'm not an abortion fan, but it's not my business, right? The same way you don't want to wear a mask, that woman want to have an abortion. If you can go without a mask and endanger me, then she could go have an abortion because it ain't endangering me, right? So we need to be very clear about whose side are we on. Are we on the side of the Union, right? Or are we on the side of the Confederate forces that want to march us back into less than? So people got to wake up. People got to wake up.
So can you type that website? I got a question up here about that website.
I got to see if I'm able to do that. I'm not sure. Because if I turn my phone this way, let me see. This is not my thing, so you have to forgive
I got
me.
you. Well, let's tell them again.
Yeah, it's March, like the month of March, on for votingrights.org. March on for votingrights.org.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up because I'm gonna check that one out down in Fayetteville. I'll be down there this upcoming weekend, and yeah, I'm definitely going to participate because I remember you and I talked about it earlier, and when I looked on the website, I didn't see anything in North Carolina, and now that I see that they do, so I'm definitely going to participate, and I challenge and we challenge everybody that's a Teamster, man, participate in these marches.
That's right.
Participate in them, man. This is bigger than any contract. This is bigger than any pension. This is bigger than anything. When people try to take your voice away from you, what does that say about them? And if you let them, what does that say about you?
That's right.
You know, we gotta stand up for this. We gotta stand up for this.
We got locals, man. Big locals in Washington, D.C., in Atlanta, Miami, Houston, Phoenix, San Antonio, Boulder, Colorado. So we looking to see who turn out. We looking to see which locals are going to be marching, because at some point history is going to hold you responsible for the outcome. So these people need to wake up.
Yeah, I think we should put something out there about, if you are a Teamster, you need to find where this is happening at and participate. Because
That's right.
listen, the biggest thing that a union provides for his workers is a voice.
Let me see if I can do this.
That's the most important thing you have is a voice. And if you
That's
let
right.
somebody if you if you let somebody take it from you, then don't complain when you don't have it anymore.
When you lose your voice,
Yeah, when you lose your voice, you lose yourself. And we can't let that happen, man. So spread the word, man. If you
I'm
live
gonna
in
put
if you
this.
live in
This it is a
DC,
chat.
if
In
you in
in
Philly, it's a 2 hour ride. Maryland, you right there, Virginia. Yeah, let's make this happen, man. Let's march. Let's march for voting rights.
I'm doing this now. Vote march on for vote. Ooh, shoot.
Let me see here.
All right,
What we
hold on
got?
a second. I'm putting this in the chat.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, march on for votingrights.org. And I just also for a lot of these here young workers, you need to know the shoulders you stand on. And it ain't Hoffman, it ain't Ron Carey, and it ain't Verma, and it ain't Herrera, and it ain't Chris, and it ain't Richard. It is some people who laid down tracks when they were killing people like there was no tomorrow. Now, these books always come up reverse, but this one is Organized Labor and the Black Worker. Organized Labor and the Black Worker by a gentleman named Philip Foner. And it's definitely a piece that you should understand that we were in labor from the very beginning. Ain't nothing happened in America that Black folk wasn't a part of, leading in, supporting, being solid with. And there's another one called Black Workers. And this is a documentary history that goes back from the colonial times all the way up to the present. The present was when they printed the book. And this was also Philip Foner and a guy named Ronald Lewis. And these are things that we have to read and understand and learn about how we got to where we have. So when you see UPS with this, there was a thing before UPS called Railway Express. There was a thing before after Railway Express and before UPS got big, Emory Air Freight, right? And all of these businesses went out of, all these companies were very successful and then went out of business. So, don't think that UPS one day will not go out of business. Even Amazon is going to go out of business one day. Hell, we never thought Woolworths would go out of business and they went out of business. So, don't think that we get to just do things and these things are always forever. Somebody at some point actually gets a layoff slip. One guy got a pension check and one guy got a layoff slip. So be very mindful, sisters and brothers, that the demands of this capitalist system makes these Amazon workers have to run like there's no tomorrow. And when you want your sneakers delivered on Sunday, then you understand why, if UPS is going to stay in business, then they're going to have to help deliver stuff on
On
Sunday.
Sunday, yeah.
Not because they're bad people, but because your dopey ass wanted a pair of sneakers on Sunday. And you ain't in no basketball game on Monday, right? And you ain't running in the Olympics on Tuesday, right? So we allow this culture to create the enemies. We actually become our own enemies.
Right.
And that's something that we have to be very mindful of. And I don't have the book right here right now, but I want to remind people there's another book written by a brother named Clarence Thomas, who is not the judge. He's a trade unionist. I have a friend named Larry Holmes, and he ain't no boxer either. And the book is called Mobilizing in Our Own Name. And just to remind people that these are things that inform and show us, particularly as Black trade unionists, what we're capable of, in spite of,
So
what the
Chris,
powers that be
I
want.
gotta ask you this question because something that you said earlier. that it's kind of, because I know you was talking about, how blacks and labor. Why do you believe that is difficult,
Yeah,
especially in the Teamsters organization? Why is it difficult for a African American or woman to get into leadership in the Teamsters organization, whether it be local leadership, joint council leadership, or in the international leadership? Why do you think that is? Uh-oh. I think something happened to the audio.
yeah. I think something happened to the audio. Uh, I don't
Did
know why.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So, I think by and large, people of African descent um, are punkish. I'm going to switch this. Let me switch this and see if it works over here. Let me try something, Richard.
Okay.
I'm going to see if this works out.
I mean, we can hear you good. Uh-oh. Well, he'll be back. So, what up, good people? We got some good people on here. But in all seriousness, guys, I think we should, wherever, if you're close by this March on the 28th, I think it would be good for, if you are a Teamster, to get involved in this march, wherever you're at on the 28th of August, because this is very, very important, man. We got to make sure that, let me see. Hey, Chris, you're going to have to send me a request. Hey, Jess, you can't hear me, Jess? Can y'all hear me? Hello, hello? Can everybody hear me? Yes, no? I don't know what's going on, y'all. Let me see. All right, I think it's coming. I think he's coming in now.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we good. We good.
All right. Good, good, good. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but let me just try to fix this thing. Ah.
All right, is everybody good now? Can everybody hear us now? Greg, Keith?
Mm.
Hit that for me.
All right. Everybody here?
Yeah, we
I got to
good.
do a little fixing up here and try to get this thing back into the saddle. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We hear you loud and
All
clear.
right. Okay, so here we go. So, what's going on here?
Uh-oh.
Okay, so one of the things is there's something going on with the sound. But let me just say this. I believe that a lot of African Americans are very punkish when it comes to taking on the responsibility of leadership.
We can hear you good, Chris.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So it's
you
on my
good.
it's on my
You
end.
good.
It's on my end. All right. And so as a result, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. As a result of that, we choose to sit in the locker room and gripe and moan, but we don't take responsibility of stepping forward and dealing with leadership. And a lot of us also deal with a thing called being black. This ain't about being black. This is about trade unionism. So trade unionism, when we talk about being black, we talk about being black simply for the fact that blacks have certain experiences which give rise to the fact that they have certain insights that if you are generally born white, that you don't see some of the things that we see as Africans in this country. So it's not from a racial perspective, but blacks have to become like Richard Hooker, look and see what's happening around them. And you know what? You might run and lose, but it's going to wake up the people around you who have been sitting there thinking that nothing can happen to them, and make them start to do more. And you can't be afraid of being ostracized. I've been ostracized in this union
man. Yeah.
pretty much since the day I got elected. You know what I'm saying? But you know what? I'm still here. I'm still here. And I know that I have done for my members some good things. Now they got things to cry about too, don't get me wrong. I was no perfect guy. But I know that I brought more to them than they lost. You know what I'm saying? And that to me, you know, we have to have faith that we have that capacity. But we don't want to read, we don't want to study, we don't want to go out here and find out things. I mean, you could have went to UPS and just, you know, packed the truck and drove a truck and went on home. You didn't have to read the contract. You know what I'm saying? You could actually go 30 years, never read that contract and make your living, and it's all good. However, if you want to move this ship forward, if you want to improve the quality of life for working people on the railroad and the public sector, you know, trucking, all these white paper contract, dairy, brewery, all these different people, we have got to engage. You learn a little about me, I learn a little about you, and together we walk this path called union.
Right.
You understand?
Union. Right.
And women need to step up. Women have every right to lead. This is the 21st century. You understand what I'm saying? This is actually now 100 years since women have gotten the right to vote. So you now need to move up into leadership position and take on these roles of leadership, and not at the whim of a man, but at the whim of the masses of the people, because you have earned the right to lead. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
right.
You know, I remind people that local 808 is predominantly white. And the next group after that are Hispanic, and I don't speak Spanish. After Buenos Dias, that's the end of the conversation. Right? And then, you know, the least group is blacks, and least likely to vote are blacks. And I have survived here for 32 years because when we came here, we didn't come here around the issue of black and white. We came here by the issue of improving the lives of working people, and my members have continued to have faith in me, and hopefully I'll be able to deliver that for a few more years. And just so you know, when I talk about working people, I mean public sector, that include NYCHA, include water districts, it include the university workers out there in California, it includes a lot of public sector up in Michigan and so forth and so on like that. Our union has quite a few workers that are a part of the state, city, or some municipality. And that, you know, and we have to become engaged with this. We need to understand their struggles. And not just me, as I don't need to understand it to the fullest. I need to know a little bit. I need to know a little bit just so that I can be helpful. You know what I'm saying? You know, I talked about these people up in Rhode Island, the Johnson brothers that's on strike. You know what I'm saying? People need to call up local 251, pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, what can I do? Do you need $20? You know, you don't might have $10,000, but you could have $20, because think about if 10,000 Teamsters sent $20.
Yeah.
You know, 50,000 sent
$20, right.
And now Johnson Brothers, the company goes, what? Oh, you didn't get that from the locals? No, these came from rank and file people. We're about to choke the living daylights out of you. We have to do these things. So, you know, I'm looking to have a trip up to Rhode Island, and I ain't gonna call and get no permission. I'm going up there and they can get pissed off if they want to, but I'm gonna go up there and spend a couple of hours with my brothers and sisters that's on that picket.
Listen, you know that I love to doing stuff like that. Just showing up to pickets and rallies, man. Because, like you said something earlier, man, the people that's in the foxhole with you, not just sending a letter saying we support you, not just sending some money, but the people that's in the foxhole with you, those are the people who you can count on. You know, you can count on. A lot of people can be counted, but a lot of people can't be count on. And we need some more count on Teamsters, not just count teams. We need count on Teamsters. People
Yeah.
who will show up. You know, I know. Hey, you know, we may not see eye to eye on this or that, but I know when it comes to fighting these employers, you're going to be there, or she's going to be there, or he's going to be
Right.
there. And
That's
that's and
right.
that's and that's what I want to get back to, man. It's you don't see that too much now, especially with the political season. But I
Yeah.
think that gets lost in what being a Teamster is all about. I see that. I mean, we can tear each other down better than anybody. But when it comes to fighting the employer, we don't do that. We don't.
Oh, no, 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 no. We don't have no fight for him. We have fight for each other.
Yeah.
You know, oh, we rough with each other. You know what I'm saying? And we also have a thing where we like to put out press releases and act as if those press releases actually did something. You know, nobody ever put it in the newspaper. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have relationships with uh, off-brand newspapers. Like in New York, we have a black-owned newspaper, the New York Amsterdam News. You
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, I'd even go you one step better. We could get stuff into the Nation of Islam newspaper, right? Hmm, the name of the newspaper escapes me right now, but we need to get our word out there. And if the New York Times is not going to publish it, then we're going to talk to the people that publish it. Let me give you a quick story, and I don't want to be too presumptive with the story, but the story has value. So, 10th anniversary of the Million Man March, right? So 2004, we had the Million Worker March. We actually invite Minister Farrakhan to come to the Teamsters National Black Caucus. He comes to the Teamsters National Black Caucus in Chicago, makes a very nice speech at the conference. 2005, we say, listen, we need you to, in your speech, to speak on behalf of labor. And he says labor should speak in its own voice, and invites us to come to the march and actually speak. So at the march, I made a call, and I said, yes, the name of the newspaper is called The Final Call. Nation of Islam's newspaper is called The Final Call. So we go to the march, and I make a call that if George Bush, then President George Bush, does not rescind the suspension of Davis-Bacon in the rebuilding of the Gulf Coast after Katrina, that we as labor should blockade the Gulf Coast until he does. 11 days after that speech, he rescinds the suspension of Davis-Bacon, because we're talking to 1,000,000+ people in DC.
Mm-hmm.
This is resonating across the country. George Bush can't have labor and the Nation of Islam and the Black Panther Party and Freedom Party starting to hold hands together. They want us to hold hands with the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is also controlled by corporate interests. So as long as we holding hands with the Democratic Party, they know we under control. When we start holding hands with other revolutionary forces in the system, you know, Socialist Workers Party, Democratic Socialists, different types such organizations, then they're going to say, holy smoke, these guys going down in the trenches and starting to deal with the grassroots. We start to now, you know, fertilize the grassroots. Then they're going to know how dangerous labor is. And then we're going to see the fruits of our labor. And I'm going to tell all you UPS guys and all you guys making good money out there, the worker today is 45 or 50% behind in wages where they ought to be right now. And that is why you have to work all this overtime to survive. That is why your wife got to be out there running to survive. That's why you don't have time for your family, because corporate America been stealing our money. Look at what CEO pay was 20 years ago as a relationship to the worker. Look at what CEO pay is today as a relationship to the worker, and see how much you're getting robbed every day, and see if you don't want to be a part of a revolution, but not a revolution for fascism, a revolution for the working class, where democracy reigns and the workers have a right to organize and build real power in this country to defeat the greed that's happening in corporate America.
I agree, good brother. We got about 5 minutes left, so I'm trying to find these dates here. So we want to talk about this debate before we
Yes, yes,
close up shop, because I really want people to go to this, watch this debate. And
that's right.
also, August 28th, if you're in one of these cities where this marches are going on for voter suppression, if you are a Teamster, you need to be there. If you can, make sure you go and participate in these marches. All right.
Yeah,
We
take
see
a
what
day off. To take days off for other dopey stuff. Take a day off and go and stand up for what Dr. King died for.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first debate, September the 1st, is going to be at the what's this? I don't even see where it's going to be at. Let me see. Well, it's going to be September the 1st in DC. And then September the 14th is going to be at the Women's Conference in Vegas. It's going to be at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. September the 1st is going to be at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then the General Secretary Treasurer debate between Fred and Ron Herrera. That's going to be September the 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be in Chicago, I believe. So September the 1st, 6:30. That's going to be the first of the General President debates, Mr. Verma and Mr. O'Brien. The second one is going to be at the Women's Conference, September the 14th. And then the final one, for the first time in history, the General Secretary Treasurer candidates will be having a debate September the 29th at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in Chicago. So please, please, please watch those debates. Take good notes. Hold everybody accountable when they come to your local or to your barn. Make sure you ask them questions. Say, hey, you said you was going to do this, A, B, C, and D. Okay, well, how are you going to do A, B, and C, and D? And if you can't do A, B, C, and D, what's your backup plan? What you going to be doing? I mean, again, these debates, I think, are not going to be for the people who have already made their mind up. I think these debates are going to be for the people who just don't know. I mean, if you're a UPS worker, 22/4s are a big issue. It's a big issue, big issue. If you're a RRC member, the 15% cutting in salary and all these things, that's a big issue. If you're a white paper person, you probably have no issues. You probably get top pay. You probably get everything you want. So you
I believe that to be true, Richard. There's a lot of white paper contract that's way behind in
okay,
terms of wages and benefits. There is no panacea in the union. There are
right,
workers that are doing good and workers that are doing not so good. But workers need to understand, because the discussion around certain points will reflect the ability of the union to see other points of view, whether they white paper or otherwise.
right, and that's one of the things I really want to see. So much stock has been placed in UPS, and I get it, political reasons. One of the main things they talk about is 22/4. We talk about that, all day, 24/7. There's a lot of other issues. The 4-year progression that happened in 2013, team care, the Article 40, harassment, all these things that have taken place before the 22/4. And it seems, that has gone by the sideline, and we just focus on one thing. But there's a lot of things at UPS. There's a lot of things in every contract. So again, I mean, you may not know either candidate or either side. You know, you just want to know who you're going to vote for, and you want to know some information about both parties. You know, when you go on social media, people ask, they'll tell you O'Brien is a thug and he's this, and they'll tell you that Verma is Hoffa's lackey or he's Hoffa's handpicked. You know, that's not, you know, what we need to be focused on when it comes to vote. We need to know from both candidates, you know, what are your plan is for the future and our present. You know, what are you going to do differently that's been done? How you see this thing playing out for future generations? You know, what is your vision for organizing? You know, what is your plan for, you know, mobilizing the you know, the minority component of your organization to get them more involved, because they make up the biggest part, the largest part of your organization. You know, what's your plan for inclusion and cultural changes? You know, so what is the plan for that? You know, and we need to talk about that. Hopefully, there's not a lot of kneecapping at this debate. You know, there's a lot of that going on. You know, we can sit here and go back and forth about what this candidate did and what this candidate said on both sides.
Yeah.
You know, we could talk about, you know, the implementation of 2018's contract with UPS workers, but there's both on each side. You know, you probably got a half and half of who stood up for that contract. You know, so again, we have to make sure that our people, our members, watch these debates and come up with a clear-cut plan on who should not win, but who should lead this organization into the future.
Yeah.
You know, so but that's my thing.
There's also, you know, there are very lucrative parts of this union, like the movie industry part of the union.
Okay.
And how do they propose to make those aspects of the union more inclusive? They tend to be the domain of predominant outside the South. They tend to be the domain of predominantly white workers, right? How do we plan to help diversify those groups, right? Because so sometimes we look at just the leadership, and the leadership need diversification itself, but there are also jobs.
Yeah.
We need to diversify those jobs and get more people in so that we can mitigate scabs and so forth like that. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, scabs are people who were shut out by and large. And then when opportunity came for the corporate people to use them to destroy the union. You understand what I'm saying? So right. We have to talk about how we get people into some of these lucrative jobs within the union. And that's going to be very important as well.
All right, Brother Chris, what you got for our closing remarks?
I'm going to say it one time. I'm going to say it 10,000 times. We need 1 million workers, 1 million Teamsters returning those ballots. I don't care how you vote. Vote. At the end of the day, watch these debates. Be informed. Don't listen to TDU. Don't listen to the head of your local union. Look for yourself. If after you've looked for yourself, you decide to follow what TDU say, fine. If you decide to listen to what your local leader says, fine. But make it be an informed decision, and we want 1 million ballots back into the ballot box. Let us show the world that we as rank and file members are engaged in our future, and we intend to make our future bright.
I agree. Make an informed decision, not a a demanded decision or a fearful decision. You know, get your own. You know, think for yourself. Stand up for yourself. You know, don't let anybody try to bully you or pressure you into doing something that you feel inside yourself is wrong. We all have a voice. I always tell my members, when you get your check, I don't know how it is in other, for other, other locals, or I should say for other people outside of UPS. But when you get your check at UPS, on the right-hand side of that check, it has two words to me that are the most important words on that check is union dues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you get that check and it says union dues, it gives you a voice, it gives you respect, it gives you dignity, it gives you honor. And if you let someone force you to do something that you know is not right or something that you don't feel comfortable with, then you're selling yourself short.
That's right.
Don't ever let nobody, put a price tag on your dignity. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Watch these debates, please. There's three of them. September the 1st, the 12th, and the 29th. Watch all three. Please watch all three and make the best informed decision for yourself. We're not going to agree. I think the convention and what you've seen through social media, you see that people are not going to agree on everything.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. But the one thing that we have to agree on is that the employer is the enemy and everybody has to vote. I'm with Chris.
That's right.
Let's get 1 million people to vote. We sent a newsletter out from 623 earlier this week, and right on the front page, of that newsletter, it talks about October the 4th, the ballots going out for international leadership. We want that to be the front page, because you got to vote. You got to participate. Listen, and I'll say it again before we close. I would rather have 1 million Teamsters vote and my candidate lose than to have 200,000 Teamsters vote and my candidate wins. The power is in the membership. It's not in Richard Hooker. It's not in Chris Silvera. It's not in Mr. Verma. It's not in Mr. O'Brien. It's not in anybody running for these offices. It's with the membership. If the membership wants to take ownership of their union, then we got to vote for it.
That was the time.
Now is the time.
That was the
because
time.
this is very, very critical. We're talking about being in a relationship or a marriage, so to speak, for the next 5 years with this whoever group it is. Think about that. Think about that. This is going to be a relationship or a marriage that you can't get out of.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go to the courthouse and say, man, I'm tired of what Verma is doing. I'm tired of what O'Brien is doing, and get out of it. No, you stuck with this for the next 5 years.
That's right.
So think about that for, the decision you make, you're going to have to look at yourself in the mirror. Are you willing to make that decision and be with this group or that group for the next 5 years?
That's right.
All right. So, Chris, thank you again.
All right, my brother. Appreciate it.
All right. So I'll be at the march in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm happy that they're going to have one because I'll be down there celebrating my birthday.
Nice.
This is year 42 coming up, and I'm calling it the Jackie Robinson year. Jackie Robinson year. History makers, game changers. Oh yeah, that's what we're doing. We're gonna continue to do that here. So, all right, I got my shirt. All right, I got my shirt delivered. It's got Robinson 42 on it.
All right.
So, oh yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited about this, man. I'm excited about the march. So again, Chris, thank you so much for your leadership, your inspiration, and your wisdom. Because I can listen to you talk all the time, man. I can.
Appreciate what you do, man.
Yep.
Future is yours. Future is yours. And I wish more African Americans and women in the union would look at you. Look at the different women that are leading local unions, my sister Deborah Simmons up in Chicago, and realize that there's nothing that's stopping us from doing these things except ourselves. Yeah. But we have to be immersed in the union. You can't be sitting on the sidelines and jump up and vote. You got to know about your local union. You got to get involved in what's going on, meet the members, go to meetings, and get up and run. If you don't like what's happening, get up and run and change the outcome. Stop crying about the future. Change the future.
Right. And also Dr. Cooper, another strong, powerful woman right here in the city of Philadelphia. Shout out to her. I think she's on here watching now.
Cooper for not remembering but yes, absolutely. She's not the only one in there. Not the only one. There's a couple of other women in the Bugby up in Michigan someplace, and
Yeah.
you know, there's some women running around doing things. There's some other African American leaders around town, and we have to celebrate all of them. But they didn't get there sitting on the sidelines. They got there
No.
being involved, and you got to get involved.
Right. Yeah, and I think this could be the year of the Teamsters women, man. They are really they're coming out. They're being vocal. They're, like you said, they're not on the sidelines. And I listen. That's why this thing with the AFL-CIO and what they did with Liz Schuler, I think it's a true telling on what is happening in the labor movement and in our society. Period. You know, we got to step away from that good old boy, come along, get along,
Right.
middle-aged white men dominated leadership in these unions. You know, because, and I know we get ready to close, but I just want to talk about that because labor is changing, the society is changing, and our culture is changing. And if we don't change with it, we're going to be left behind. And Teamsters in general, we cannot afford to be left behind. We can't. I think we got a lot of catching up to do as it is. So if we keep going back and we keep going back and we keep going back, pretty soon, you know, we're going to lose hope. We're going to lose touch, especially with the younger generation that we got coming up behind us.
Let me say, because you hit on a good point, and I just want to piggyback on that. You know, a lot of people think of America as white. America is beyond white. America has never been white. America has been the amalgamation of many nations and peoples, right? Now, every immigrant group that comes here, people say, oh, the country's browning and what have you. No, the country is Americanizing. Everybody that comes to America all love boogie woogie, all love McDonald's, all love Coca-Cola and Pepsi, all love baseball, all love football, America is an attitude. And every immigrant group that comes to America, their parents might hold on to the old country, but the kids are America. Right. And don't fear this browning of America, because everybody that comes here loves this thing we call the attitude of America. And don't be afraid. Love Coca-Cola. I'm not a McDonald's guy, but you know, people love McDonald's and KFC and fast food and what have you like that. So do not fear the browning of America. Ain't nobody going back to pick no cotton. Ain't nobody going back to do none of them things like that. No blacks, no whites. We got machines that do that. And, you know, and so we have to start to embrace an America that doesn't look like the old America, but looks very much like the new America, but it's still America.
Yeah. And hopefully we can adopt that attitude, you know, in our organization. So, all right, good people. Please don't forget these debates. September the 1st. I'm about to say Fred. Mr. Verma, Mr. O'Brien. Debate 1. Debate 2. September the 12th. Again, Mr. Verma and Mr. O'Brien. The last one is between Mr. Zuckerman and Mr. Herrera. Please watch all three. Watch all three. Take notes. I'm really, really serious about this. This is very, very important. You know, you don't have to listen to somebody else tell you something. Like Chris said, don't listen to Hooker. Find out for yourself. You may not agree with Hooker. You may not agree with Chris. But again, we still going to love you. We still going to fight for you. We still going to do what we need to do. Because again, we're not Democratic or Republican. We're Teamsters.
Teamsters. That's right.
We're Teamsters. And like Chris, and I love when he says this. When we're asked about, supporting this person or supporting that person, we want the Teamsters to win. That's what we want. We want the Teamsters to win. We want the community that the Teamsters are in to win. We want the Teamster wife, the Teamster husband, the Teamster child. We want them to win. That's who we're gonna keep fighting for. All right. So Chris, thank you again. We're gonna get out of here. See you in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Let me see. Let me see. In 2 weeks, I think that first debate might be up, so we can have something to talk about. Let me look at my calendar here real quick. Let me see. 2 weeks. Yeah, that first debate will have happened,
That's it.
and we can talk about that debate. So our next show will be the 5th, and that first debate will have happened already, and it should be good. We could talk about it. We could talk about what was said, and it should be a good show.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, good brother. Thanks again.
Stay well, man. Peace and blessings to you all. Stay wet. Stay safe.
Yeah. All right, good people. We're gonna get out of here. Don't forget again, September 1st, Mr. Verma and Mr. O'Brien, debate number 1. Debate number 2, September the 12th, Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Verma. All right, and for the first time in history, they're gonna have a debate for the General Secretary of Treasurers. That's September the 29th in Chicago. Please, 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 please watch the debate. If you're a 623 member, you should have gotten our newsletter, and on the front page it talks about that debate. Well, not the debate, about the vote, October the 4th. Please, when you get your ballots, send it back in. Don't wait. Don't put it down. Don't sit it down. It's September the 14th. Excuse me, I said the 12th. It's September the 14th. That debate. The second debate is September the 14th. I just got the message. September the 14th. All right. Please watch all 3 debates. All right. Please, this is very, very important. Again, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you guys. See you on September the 5th, as will be our next show with me and Chris. We're going to be talking about that debate and what happened, what was said, and hopefully we'll hear from you guys as well. All right, again, 623 members, September the 12th. September the 12th is when we're going to have, that's probably why I got mixed up with the 12th and the 14th, because the 12th, we have our reopening cookout at the Union Hall. All right, September the 25th, if you're a 63 member, is our reopening for union business at the Union Hall. It's been a long, long time. I'm thank God that we can get away from Zoom. September the 25th at 11 a.m. down at the Union Hall. Please come down. Let's get back together, talk about what's going on with the union. And then September the 12th, we're going to have a reopening cookout. Wear your favorite jersey, because that's football starts on the 12th. Again, please come out. Have a good time. And I will see you soon. God bless. We love you. And again, this Saturday, August 28th, if there is a march going on for voter suppression, please take part in this. It's very, very important. Voting rights are very, very important. Please, you know what this country has been through when it comes to voting rights. You saw what just happened with this last election with the whole voting situation. Please, there's a march going on around in your neighborhood, in your city. If you're a Teamster, let's get involved in this. All right? It will affect us more than you ever know. So again, we out. God bless. We love. See you guys real, real soon.